Hello everyone. Today I'm going to be switching out this toilet, and we're going to be putting a brand new toilet in. So I thought I'd take just a little bit of time and we'll step through the process and show you how to do it. So let's get on it and make it happen. Alright, the first thing we want to do is we want to shut off the water supply line to the toilet. And in my case I have a quarter cocked valve, which is right here, and this is fully on right now, so I'm going to go ahead and just turn this off. And I turn that towards me. Now my valve is shut off. And the next thing I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and flush the toilet. And we're going to flush that, and we're going to drain the water out of the tank. And it's going to come into the bowl, then we're going to get the water out of the bowl. I'm going to go ahead and flush it because we want to get the water out of there. Okay, it's that easy. So the water that was in the tank right here is now in the bowl. And there's a little bit of water in here which, we can use a little cup or a towel and get that out. What we want to do is we want to get as much water out of this tank that we can, because when we lift this off, water is going to come everywhere. So this really isn't the cleanest job to do. The water in the tank was relatively clean, but when it gets in the bowl, that's a different story. So if you want to clean the bowl out before you do this, probably not a bad idea. And so I already did that to this toilet right here, and now I'm ready to get the water out. So what's the best way to do this? You can use a little Dixie cup if you want. I've just got another little kind of, it's kind of like a little shop container. I put all kinds of stuff in, but I'm going to use this to try and pan the water out of here. And when it gets so low, you can leave a little bit of water in there, or you can use a towel and try to get the rest of that out. So here it goes. Alright, that's about it. Water's just about out. I'm going to use a little cup. I'll finish getting that out, and maybe a towel to get the rest of it out, and we'll move forward. Alright, with the supply line taken off, what you can see right here is that we have bolts right here. And this bolt is used to hold the tank onto the bowl. So there's one on each side, and what we want to do next is we're going to take both of these off so we can loosen up the tank and get the tank off. Alright, I'm using, it can be a socket, but this just happens to be a self-contained socket that came with a previous kit. So it makes it really, really easy for me to come in here and just loosen this up. And what you want to do is you want to loosen a little bit on one side, then go to the other and loosen a little bit of it. And keeping in mind, I still have a little bit of water inside this tank. So I'm going to jump over to the other side, loosen it. We're going to go back and forth. Okay, now that I have the nuts taken off the bolts on both sides of this tank, the tank is ready to come off. So we're going to go ahead and pull this tank off. Alright, now that we have the tank off, we need to go ahead and we're going to loosen up the bowl. And there are two bolts that make this happen. Just about every toilet has the same situation. It's set up the same way. I'll have a bolt on this side over here and a bolt over here, and they're usually covered by caps. So I'm going to reposition the camera so we get a closer look at that. We're going to take the bolts off and we're going to pull this off. Alright, you can see one side, this is what it looks like where you got the cap on it. We're going to go ahead and pull this cap off, and we'll see a nut, take the nut off. Okay, cap comes off. And these nuts, they're just plastic nuts, and they're finger tightened on, so we should just be able to loosen them with our fingers and get it back off. If this isn't the case for you, and say it's old and it's steel, you just grab a pair of pliers and then just break them free. Okay, so now I've loosened up, the nuts are off, the bolt's coming up through the floor. Now it's ready for this to be lifted up. And this should lift up relatively easy. Just keep in mind this can be, porcelain can be a little heavy. And there's a wax ring in here. So that wax ring, it might act as a suction when you go to pull this up, but it will come up. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this off now. The other thing to keep in mind is that you may want to have like a canvas tarp or someplace to put this. I mean, we did the best we could to get the water out, so I'm expecting we didn't get it all, so a little water is going to come out. Just have a towel nearby, that kind of thing. Have a place you can put your old toilet. So put it on a pan, take it outside, do whatever. Take it outside and put the word free on it, right? You never know, someone might come and grab it. So let's go ahead and lift this up. All right, so we've got the bowl of the toilet out, and this is what we're left with, all right? Got my supply line, and what you see right here, this is the wax ring. So the wax ring didn't come off with the toilet, it stayed on the floor, which is fine. What I've got here is just a simple putty knife, and you can grab any kind of putty knife like this, and what you want to do is scrape away that wax ring. And you know, that wax ring, it's made from beeswax, but it's just, it can be, you know, it's just kind of tacky. So I got gloves on right here. You can also have just a little plastic trash bag. What you want to do is try to scrape this off, put it in the bag so you throw it out. These wax rings, you get a one-time use with them. They don't cost a whole lot, so it's easy enough to go buy another wax ring and then just reseat it on your toilet and put it down. So we're going to go ahead and pry it off now. And that looks pretty good. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and put a new toilet back in. You'll see you'll have bolts here that are sticking up. And typically a new toilet will come with new bolts, and we'll just go ahead and swap these out. But we'll go ahead and get the new toilet first and go from there. So let's get that toilet going. Let's talk real quick about toilets and some of the different options that are out there. Now this is the toilet that I happened to pick up, and this was from Menards. If you have a Menards where you live, you'll know what I'm talking about, but if you don't, it's like a Home Depot, a Lowe's, it's like one of those big box stores. This is a Elger Diplomat, okay, and it's compact. So Elger is kind of my research tells me that it's a brand that was manufactured for Menards. And if you look at the guts of this is it's actually made by American Standard, so it's very similar to the Cadet series, and the flushing power on it's the same. Everything's a lot of the mechanics within it are very similar. So great strong toilet. Again, it's just made from Menards, and this is what I went with. One thing to note is let's talk about the height. This is compact because it's a little bit smaller, but it's got all the same flushing power. The thing that I really like is the from floor to the bowl. Okay, so if you do your research on toilets, you're going to start seeing a lot of things. You're going to see 15 inches, you'll see 14 inches, you're going to see 16 inches, and you might see 17. What's standard, I think, is more like 15 inches. So, and it may even be 14 and a half, 14 and 3/4, but this is 15, okay? So if you go with 16 and a half or 17, and you're a little bit taller, you're going to find that when you're sitting on the toilet, your legs are almost 90 degrees, which is great. I mean, for a taller person, it feels like sitting in a chair, you know, so it's a little better. But if you're not and you have shorter legs, your feet are going to dangle. You know, you might be able to get your toes on the floor. And so I believe in fitting the lowest common denominator. So in my case, I believe in going with the standard height. And this toilet is standard height at 15 inches. If you do have knee problems or you're getting older, that kind of thing, you can always put a riser on the toilet seat. So I don't understand why manufacturers started going with what they call a comfort toilet now. And the problem with that is that if you get a comfort toilet and you're at 16 and a half or 17 inches high, you can't go any lower because the porcelain bowl is that high. So if you're shorter, you can always go higher, but if you're higher, you can't go any shorter. So it's something to think about when you go to look for a toilet. Again, this is a 15-inch height toilet, and that's the reason why I really went with a compact type unit. So hopefully that'll help you out. Now we'll get in with the install. All right, I've taken the toilet out of the box, and the first thing I did was turn it over. And you want to turn it over because this toilet, and maybe most out there come with it, I'm not 100% sure, but this one did, and it came with the wax ring. So one thing you want to do is open up our wax ring here, And we're going to take this out, and we're going to unwrap it, and then I'm going to place this wax ring on the toilet. And this is, it's always a good approach. Actually, it probably doesn't hurt for me to have some gloves on, but that's all right. So, got our wax ring right here, and what you want to do is, it's got the black side's going to go out. So the wax ring itself is going to be seated up against the porcelain bowl here. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of give a little wipe here, and I'm going to fit this right up on it, and this should fit right up over the hole. I'm just going to kind of shape it just a little bit, be sure we got the opening, which we do, and that looks pretty good. And you're just going to softly kind of push it on there. Now what I'm going to do is, again, I'm just going to press down. I'm a little firmer this time. The reason for this is just kind of tap it. You don't want to push really hard, but you want it so it's not going to come off when you go to put this on your hole. So in this case, this is nice and solid, and we are ready to go. Now, before we get the toilet on, one thing I want to show is that right here, these are the bolts that I left in when we removed the toilet. You could take these out if you want. You could put the other bolts in. These bolts are in great condition, so I'm going to go ahead and leave these in here, and we should be in good shape. And it's worth noting that if you leave your toilet off for a while, I just went ahead and plugged this with some paper towel. You can use a towel of any sort and just keep the hole plugged. It helps keep the gases down into the sewer line. It's not a big deal if you leave it open for a half hour, hour or so, but if you're out for the afternoon, go ahead and plug that up, and it also prevents stuff from getting down in there. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and try to fit the bowl back onto these bolts, and we'll go from there. One thing, I went to put the toilet on, and this one is a little different. The typical rough end for these toilets is 12 inches. Sometimes you'll see 10. It'll tell you when you get the toilet. And what that means is that it's 12 inches from the wall to that bolt opening on the bottom of that toilet. And this is 12 inches. We have the clearance. However, this particular toilet makes full use of that 12 inches. So that means that you can see right here we have base molding, then we have quarter round. And that's taking up maybe a half inch or so, maybe a little bit more. So when I went to put the toilet down, the back of it was hitting right up on this quarter round. And there's not a whole lot to do. I grabbed an oscillating tool and just notched this out, notched the quarter round out right here. So I'm going to go ahead and get the toilet now, and we're going to go ahead and lay it down on top, and hopefully this will fit. Let's make it happen. Alright, one thing I want to emphasize before I get the toilet is that the wax ring's on it as we put it on there, but you have one shot with this wax ring, and it's not a huge deal. If you don't get it seated right and then you move it around, you could break the seal. You don't want that, right? If that happens, you just head back to the box store and grab another wax seal. I don't know, they're pretty cheap. It's not a big deal, but it's just something to think about. Is when you go to put that toilet on, make it count. And if you need some help, then get somebody to help you so that you can line up the bolts and be sure that they're going to come up right. And whatever you do with it, just be light with it until you get it right where you want it, and then you push down and then really try to get it to seat. Okay, so just something to think about. I'm going to go ahead and grab the toilet and we're going to put it down. Be sure we're lined up pretty well. Here we go. And one push. Well, I gotta tell you, we were right up against that wall. But you feel it go down, you feel it's flat, it's pretty tight. Definitely not going anywhere. And at this point, you know, if you feel like it's not quite right and I go to move it and break it, it's not what you want to do. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to go ahead and lock this down, and we're going to put the nuts on. That's good. Now I don't want to over tighten that, and I'm going to go ahead and do the other side right now. Okay, these are nice and tight. I'm going to go ahead and put the cap on. It just sits on there. Do the same for the other side, and we're good to go. Okay, so I have the tank right here, and let me just show you real quick. Regardless of whatever tank you might get, it's probably got some kind of rubber gasket or a flange of some sort that this thing is going to sit upon, just to kind of make it seat nicely on the bowl. So this has its piece right here, which I'm just now putting on, and I want to be sure this fits on right. But once you get this on, just like that, it is ready to go. Just be sure it's nice and solid. And these already had the screws coming out of it right here. They're going to line up with the bowl, and this thing's going to go right down on top of it. Alright, so this has a washer and my bolt. And I'm going to go ahead and get my washer on first, and then we'll go ahead and get the bolt on. It's okay. I've got them tightened on both sides. Now I'm going to go ahead and we're going to go ahead and tighten this up. Okay, so I've reconnected the supply line down here, and then we connected up top here. And this is a 12-inch tube, but keep in mind if you need one longer, you can get that. I actually had a 20-inch, which was too long, so I went back and exchanged it and got the 12-inch, and this seems to fit much better. So now, what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and turn the water to the valve back on right here, and then we're going to keep a close eye on everything down here for any kind of leaks that may occur. And then if we have those, we'll tighten this up. I don't suspect we will, but as mentioned before, we are really kind of tight up in here and on the back side. So I want to keep a close eye on our connections up here and then our bolts underneath. I just want to be sure we don't have any water coming out through that. And we're going to go ahead and make this happen. There you have it. That's a quarter cock right there, and so the quarter is just one simple turn. It's full on or full off, and I'm feeling around here on the bottom, and there's no water. I'm going to feel up here. So far so good. We'll let that pressure kind of build once it stops going, and put a double check on it. You can also get some, just like some tissue paper, and just wrap it around, because that's really sensitive to water. And so it will detect whether or not you have any kind of water going, but so far so good. Alright, we're taking a look actually inside the bowl right now, and you'll see the water level down there, and that looks really low for this type of toilet. So this can be adjusted. If we come up here and we take a look inside the tank, you can see the water line down there, and you'll see how that's low. And so what we can do is we can adjust it using this little screw right here. Other toilet tanks may have something similar, but this adjusts the float, which is down here. So we want that float to come up higher so we can put more water inside our tank, and when we flush, that flapper comes up, all the water drains down into the bowl. And so that means we're going to have more water in our bowl. So we're going to go ahead and make this adjustment. And it's either done by turning clockwise or counterclockwise. And so this will rise up, and I'm going to go ahead and make a few adjustments here to get that water to come up. And the goal is, you can see our tube right over here. So I want that water line to be just below that tube to maximize the amount of water we can put in this tank. So I'm going to go ahead and make a few adjustments, and we'll see if that helps. Alright, now you can take a look inside the bowl and you'll see the water that we have in there. And there's quite a bit more. And if you notice up here, in my case I had to just turn this screw right here clockwise. And I had to do it quite a bit to adjust that float. And you can see the water and just how close it is now to our tube right here. So we have a full solid tank of water, and we'll go ahead and flush, and we can check the refill. And there you have it. So, looks good. I think we're in good shape at this point. And all we have to do right now is we're going to go ahead and put the toilet seat back on. Now, this seat actually came with this unit, but you might have one that you just purchased separately. And rather than get into the details of the seat, I'm going to let you put your own seat on and figure that out. But I think that completes this installation of the toilet, and hopefully this will help you out. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment, and I'll do my best to get back to you, and we'll do what we can to try to help you out. Thank you. Take care.